I don't want to take more time because you have limited time, and there's an amazing speaker that I get to introduce for you. And that speaker is somebody that I've known for a quarter of a century. That's a woman that I've had the privilege to be able to travel the earth with for these 25 years. And on most years, we were on the road 250 days, sometimes 270 days in a year. And that's my wife, Sage. She is a force of nature. You will see it. She can be as gentle and soft and one of the most loving humans I know. And I'm not just saying that because she's my wife. I've met millions of people. And I always say to my wife and other people, truthfully, I said, you know, the gift that I've gotten, my karma for helping millions of people all over the world for, 48 years of my life, is I found this incredible soul, my wife. So you'll get to see her. She is an incredible businesswoman, extraordinary. We have 114 companies around the world, and she's kind of the executive producer of our life and a huge executive producer of our education company, a great business executive, an incredible mom, an incredible wife, incredible a friend to people, incredible daughter, just beautiful soul. I can't say enough about her, but you'll have your own direct experience of her and the essence of her joy and her love. And I think she can bring you a look at leadership from what I believe is most important, from a servant leadership, about how do we truly serve? Because when people know that you care more about them than yourself, when people know you care about serving something more than yourself, it gives you almost a magical capacity to lead people when you're truly the servant, when your ego is set aside and you're there for them and you're there for the mission. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the one I love most on earth, the one and only Sage Robbins.
One more time.
Hi. Hello, everyone. It's such a gift to be with you today, and I just want to acknowledge Kevin and Julie and Mark for bringing such an extraordinary group of human beings together. It's amazing that each and every one of you, all of us, took this time to self-reflect, to take responsibility of what leadership can look like. And, Tony mentioned about a drought. You mentioned about a drought in leadership, a crisis in the world. And this world is hungry for leaders. And it's been my experience that, as we shift from how do I get the job done to who am I being, and that's what I'm excited to have a conversation with you about. But I just really honor you and respect you and thank you for the opportunity to join you today. And as well you, Kevin, so thank you.
Of course, Sage, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, first off, I just absolutely love your aura and vibe. Where are you from, and how did you come where you are?
I am from a small town in Canada, Fort Langley. My mommy and daddy, there was 5 of us children. My parents fostered kids. A working class family. My father owned a lumber yard, and we were literally working. I was cutting lumber and stacking lumber when I was 13.
Wow.
And it taught, I didn't recognize, when you're growing up and you resist what your parents are having you do and to work and add value. But now I look back at that stage of my life and I see how it schooled me to be resourceful and to push through and to have a work ethic.
I'm thinking, today in my speech, I was thinking, gosh, so many people here have made an impact on me, and there's so many others that could say the same thing.
Yes.
When you think about the people in your life who have been a light that made an impact on you, who are those people and how do they make an impact?
My parents, for sure. My parents, my father's in AA, and as I mentioned, they fostered children, but they very much had, our life is a gift and share your gifts. And so our home was always at Christmas dinner. We always had everybody that didn't have a place to go. They were at our home. And I even remember growing up and truthfully having fostered children and kids come into our home. And my parents introduced that this is your brother and sister. You welcome them as such. And once again, there are patterns of resistance, but I recognize how much it shaped me as a human being here now today. So definitely my parents are the top tier of that.
Love that. Well, in order to make the impact, as we know as a leader, you need to have a nice off the court and like a lot of things that can
You
happen
need to have
like off the court. So
Off the court, yes.
Yeah, if you're having a bad day or something's going on at the household, it
Yes.
can absolutely impact your on-court performance, your business performance. You work a lot with leaders on mental health, on being clear and confident, a lot of those different things that can help them be a better leader to their organization. Your thoughts on how to help leaders in the room do that?
Yes, well, Tony mentioned about, being a servant leader and taking responsibility. And, as I mentioned earlier, it's about how we are being. You can demand the job done. We all know what that looks like, kind of like an older style, Putin style leadership. Do you know what I mean? Do this. Do this now. And that might get the job done. But does it create connection? Does it enroll others? Does it inspire others? And so I really feel part of the responsibility is actually taking responsibility for how we're showing up. And having an intention each and every day. And I don't know what that looks like for you, but it can be prayer, meditation. I do a simple process called 60 Seconds of Grace. And it's really about gathering our energies back to ourselves so that when we go out, we can be aligned. Aligned, our minds and our hearts connected. Because if not, in the busyness and activity, we can get caught up in this survival mind. And that's really the greatest stress. The illusion is the stress is outside. It's really what we're doing in here. Would you like to experience or try 60 seconds? Because it's just a quick meditation.
Sure, let's do it,
Okay.
absolutely.
So let's all take a breath and close your eyes and just sit completely comfortable. There's no right or wrong way. And as you gather your awareness, your attention back to this moment, what do you notice? Besides the vacuum maybe next door. What do you notice? Tune in to your body being breathed. The miracle of that breath. The sensations. You can gently open your eyes. What did you feel? What did you experience? Does anybody would like to share? Yes.
Connection.
You felt connected.
Lightness.
A lightness. Yes. Anybody else? Connection. A lightness. Yes. Present in the moment.
Peacefulness.
Peacefulness. So that was 60 seconds. That's a practice that you can do in the morning. For myself, I'll do it in between Zoom calls or meetings. Why? To plug back in, to realign. Because otherwise it's just the busyness, just who can relate to just from one thing to another thing to another thing. And we can go blind in that. We can all go blind in that. So I find that very powerful and very simple. And you can do it anytime. And if I am feeling overwhelmed or stressed, it doesn't even have to be in between meetings or just morning, just gathering our awareness and our attention back to this moment. So we can be present and connected and feel light amongst the crisis, the drought, the fires. Life is always offering challenges. I find that a really useful tool.
It reminds me of one of our speakers who will be speaking tomorrow, Stephanie Graham, who talks
Yes.
about in order to lead others, you have to first lead yourself.
Yes, yes.
And so What a powerful moment that is. And it also reminds me of all the forums that we offer. We always start off with, if you know in our forums, a one emotion check-in.
Yes.
And then we have a notice round. What do you notice
Yes.
about the individual check-in? And what I'm noticing about forum recently is because of the geopolitical headwinds that are happening out there, it's causing a lot of stress
Yes.
and anxiety. Any hands in the room? It was the number 3 topic when we polled the audience. And they said they wanted to get help with. How are you helping leaders overcome all the changes that are happening right now?
Yes. Well, once again, is it the external environment that's causing us stress? Or is it what we believe and think about the external environment that's causing us stress? How many of you believe it's the external alone? Is it the external environment that's causing us stress? Or is it what we're believing and thinking about the internal environment? Just raise your hand, just show of hands. Yes. When you recognize that, that's empowering. I can change that. That's amazing. And therefore, okay, the external quote unquote crises, the external environment politically, wow, we don't have to be a contributor to the schism, to the disconnect. I believe that that's actually each of our power is that to not contribute to the confusion, to not contribute to the demonization, to not contribute to the blame. And when you do it, catch yourself. If you're sitting around a table and people are trouble talking about others or politicians or this or that, so I don't know, I think it's a conscious choice to be a part of the solution or not. How do we get hate to stop? We stop it by saying, I'm not going to contribute to it anymore. That's a choice for each of us. It's like, oh, everybody's so, whatever comes out of our mouth. And so we don't even recognize how we innocently perpetuate the discord. Each of us, unconsciously. And so I really believe that that's the greatest effect and gift that we can bring as leaders to our business environments, to our homes, and to our life. To catch ourselves. I call it not contributing to the schism.
Question for you. Can anyone be a leader?
I believe that we as human beings absolutely all have leadership qualities. Yes, I see we have a 3.5-year-old daughter, and she amazes me how resourceful, how clear and decisive. She's very clear on her yes, and she's very clear on her no. That's cool. Like that, really, I watch her, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. We'll be, sometimes after dinner, she'll be, Daddy, okay, you do this, you ride this like a pony, and Mom, like our whole family, she's directing, she's leading. So yes, I do believe that it's an innate quality. I don't know that it's per se mirrored to all of us growing up or in life, that we're all leading, but we all are consciously or unconsciously. And what I love about the spirit of real leaders in this community is that people are choosing to, just by your attendance, by this moment, all of us to just wake up to see ourselves. Because that's what we truthfully can change.
I love that. And what I'd be curious to ask someone like you is like, a lot of people in here might go very narrow into a target or market segment. However, you heard it from Tony, she's reaching 1.3 million people.
Yes, we just had our Rise Up Summit, and it's a free event that we do. Yes, we had the privilege to touch over 1.3 million people from all around the world.
Well, my question for you is like, how do you do that? I know it's like a simple question, but like, what are some of those things that you've learned over time with Tony where it's been like this message or this vision, as he said earlier, or what is it, do you think, that inspires that amount of individuals?
That's a wonderful question. I believe that we as human beings have an innate intuition or connection or instinct, I suppose, of what's real, what's true, what's authentic, what's bullshit. You can feel it. You can feel it. And so it's been my experience that when you have pure intention to serve, that's really your intent, that power moves to you and supports you. And then we couldn't do what we do without the extraordinary team that we have. So it's not he and I alone. We have remarkable human beings around us, like just amazing team members. A number of them are in this room right now. I could never do what I do without them. He could never do what he does without them. And so there's that. I remember the first time I went to Quincy Jones. He's a very dear friend. And, you go in and he has all the Grammys and, awards, like just the biggest room with all awards. And it's quite extraordinary to see. And he was like, it wasn't just me. It wasn't just me. In order to create this, it took like a tribe. And that's always stayed with me because that's certainly been my experience. Who else can relate that you couldn't do what you do without amazing human beings? Yes. Yes.
Absolutely. Well,
I don't know if that answered your question.
It does. And I think, whether it's 1.3 million people, and today I guess we have 100 people here in this room. A lot of leaders. As you see in your infographics, control a lot of spending. A lot of decision makers here in the room today.
Yes.
What message would you want to say to the people in the room today? We're in, again, this state, this drought of leadership. What message do you have for these leaders?
To know that your presence, that your words, that your attention, how you show up, who you are makes a difference. And it makes a difference for all those that we have the privilege to connect with, to communicate with. And it isn't even just the people in your workspace or who you're partnering with, but there's that blessedness. Goodness attracts goodness and it perpetuates. And then somebody at work, they feel seen. They feel lifted up. They are recognized. I think that's something that we're really craving in society as well, is to be seen, to connect, to the intimate connection amongst human beings. And so I think sometimes the miss with all of our themes, our global themes of the crisis and the mental health crisis or the political, whatever it might be, is sometimes we as human beings feel, flip, all right, that's too big for me. That's too big for, and it isn't up to the politicians alone. It's up to each and every one of us to choose to lead in an effective and an impactful way. And, it's not just Tony and I. There's many extraordinary speakers here that will be sharing insights. And, the how, you wouldn't be in the room if you know how to create something. And so I really feel at this stage of this point in time, it's more, how are we being? That is unique. That is powerful. And that is impactful.
Well, Sage, last night we had the opportunity to have a couple of amazing leaders come together just for a nice little meet and greet.
Yes.
And we shared a couple of things. And one of the things, I guess a common trait among a lot of the leaders was, I'm kind of deflated. I came here to feel inspired. I needed something to fill my cup. What keeps you going?
That's a great question. Well, I don't believe that we're here just by chance alone. I woke up. You woke up this morning. Your body's being breathed. I have a heartbeat. That's a freaking miracle. That's how I stay aligned. By gratitude and connecting to whatever your faith is, belief is, there's a source greater intelligence than who we are. That can be forgotten. And it's my experience as we recognize and give thanks for what's blessed. We're blessed. If you're sitting in this room, we are blessed human beings. It's a privilege. And yet we can all so innocently forget to say thank you. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this moment. Life's beautiful. And there is so much reflecting the discord or the confusion or the crisis. And yet you go outside, and we were walking here, that beautiful tree growing, in the middle of the veranda there, or the patio, that's beautiful. Life is beautiful. And that's how I fill my cup. And so if you're feeling deflated or feeling disconnected, you can try on some of these practices that these beautiful human beings are going to be offering this week. Just try giving thanks. Beginning your day, ending your day. Thank you for this gift of life. It's crazy. We walk around in this miracle, and that can be so often missed. That's what I do. I'm not saying to do that, but I'm very prayerful, and my prayerful is usually thank you.
I noticed when you started talking about gratitude, your voice changed. You started getting really emotional a little
Yes.
bit. Like, what's ruminating right now for you?
Well, your question guided me to the fact that I think it's a miss that we, as human beings, I'll take it back to my daughter, that there's so much, there's so much in life that's offered. And to miss that, that's a miss. And so, we began this conversation about noticing. Just notice, as you're walking around, notice. Because otherwise we're here on our phones, and, we all know that busyness, what that looks like. But just notice as you're walking around, notice what this life offers us. It's beautiful human beings. It's lovely to think that something in you guided you here. You chose, yes, but there's a sense of resonance, a sense of goodness. Talking to your mom earlier and really feeling her heart for the next generation. I meet her in that. I join in that. How many of you are parents or grandparents? Yes. And it isn't just leading in the workspace or in our businesses, but also there's very parallel factors of being a parent. Would you relate to that? Yes, you have to be willing to straight talk. Loving, yes, loving first. You have to be willing to straight talk. You have to be willing to serve the circumstance, to serve who you're connecting with. You might not please them in the moment, but if you're serving them long term, you will.
Let's go into that topic,
Okay.
if we can. Yep.
Sure. He said 10.
This really, this reminded me of something. For the top executive coaches in the room, we had 10 questions for them. Okay, and they're based on the main topics of the pain points of all of our members in order to rank them on how good of a top executive coach they are. And one of the categories was personal, professional relationships. And the question was an actual scenario where it was a CEO who came into a meeting and said, I set this meeting, it's coming up next with my mom and my wife. And all of the coach, and so how do I deal and navigate this situation? Because my mom and my wife are not getting along, and I'm kind of in the middle. And that's a real thing that I think a lot of people probably have dealt with here.
Yes.
Of course, the coaches have. And so my question is, how do you, in your experience, do you take the hat off from parent to business? Or do you keep it on? Is it centered the entire time? Do you deal with the same situations in the same way? How do you go about that?
I don't know. I think there's a continuity. When I do a couple things, when I leave work and I'm coming home, say work is actually a home, ironically. So I look to make a transition, like maybe I'll have a shower, I'll jump and have a hot tub or something before I sit down for dinner with our daughter. But that's not answering your question, but I'm going to share that in that moment. I'm a big believer in resetting and you know what I mean, realigning once again. But I don't know, in the middle is an interesting piece. I would question that. And possibly look to be not in the middle, but neutral. Because you have this person here saying this person here saying that, mother, a parent or whatever, in-law or something of that nature. And I think sometimes innocently I used to get too involved in other people's business, too involved in the story, too involved in the drama. I don't know, this world doesn't really need another opinion. Truthfully, I mean, it's laden with freaking opinions. Perception, perception, which includes understanding. I think that's fresh. And so I look to stay very much in the middle ground amidst the conflict. I look not to bring my opinion, but to be an ear, to be a voice of understanding. Tony, this actually feels relevant. He'd mentioned the 3 mandates of leadership. And in this context, if you think of it, if there's a conflict, see it as it is. Reality. See reality as it is. Not worse than it is. Not adding all of our overlays of our opinions, our judgments, our blame, our drama, our emotionality. See it as it is. That's powerful in absolutely all contexts, and certainly this one. The second one is see it better than it is. Mom or mother-in-law, I can't remember the exact example, or whatever, just 2 family members having a conflict. It's see it better than it is. Recognize it's a moment in time. Recognizing, okay, this isn't pervasive. It's human. It's human. We can all, we get our wires crossed. So it's like seeing it, and from a workspace, taken from a workspace, it's like, say if an individual or somebody that you're working with, there's a drama, there's an allowance, because we can all go blind. I can go blind. I can miss. Who can miss in this room? Me too. I can be a knucklehead. I can get charged. I can get frustrated. We're human. And yet we make this big deal about this person. So catch ourselves. And the third one was make it the way you see it. I think to hold a higher vision of what's possible in these conflicts, in business, in our lives. It's a powerful way to relate to challenges, to opportunities, to life, to our families, to our businesses. Because then that puts us clear-minded, connected, not entangled, not in the drama of it. If I all of a sudden I think, hey, I've got all the answers, if somebody asks me, sure, absolutely. But once again, being aware not to, the sides happen.
Sure.
This side versus that side, politically, in families, in business, because of the divisiveness, rather than, okay, well, hey, we're all human. That's where we all meet. We're all human. We all feel, we all bleed, we all feel fear, we all get sad, we all get scared. We feel moments and periods of joy. It's a gift. It's like it's all in us. It's all in us. So I think just catching ourselves.
Well said. Well, what a great way to tee up the rest of this conference about unite, bringing people together with diverse perspectives. I appreciate you just coming on and making it here to this event to speak to all these leaders on such a short notice.
Thank you.
Tell them a little bit about your program that you're going to have coming up, how they can get involved. And also, we have this recording as well, how the world can get involved with all of the work that you have coming up.
Yes, of course. Well, for everybody in the room, we have our Unleash program, I believe in March. And it's a virtual event. If you'd like to attend, please come as our guest. We'd love to have all of you. And we'll make sure that you guys get the link, but would love to extend that invitation to you. Yes.
Well, what a breath of fresh air this morning, Sage. Thank you so much for coming on.
Of course.
Sage Robbins,
Thank
everybody.
you. I'm so happy to take questions.
Couple questions?
I'd love to take some questions if anybody has them.
We've got 2.5 minutes for Q&A. Jesse.
Hi, Jesse.
Hi, Sage.
Hi.
My first job at college, I was a speaker for Tony,
Oh, amazing.
which means my boss was Scott Humphrey, your brother.
Oh, no way!
Yes, yes.
Oh, but family-run business too, by the way. So it's my husband, my brother, all of us. Yeah.
So had the pleasure of that being the first experience out of college.
Wow.
I met so many people who were like, I went to Unleash the Power Within in the 80s.
Yes.
Before I was even born.
Yes.
They were kind of flexing on me about walking on fire with Tony in the 80s. Tony's been doing this for 40 plus years. You've been doing this now for 20, 25 plus years.
Yes.
I'm curious what some of the distinctions have been in recent history, maybe the last 10 years. Lessons that you've learned or that Tony's learned that maybe weren't as clear in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, but over the last 10 years have become much more clear as distinctions or takeaways in the self-development ecosystem.
Yes, that's a great question. Personally or professionally?
Either.
Yeah. Well, it's been my experience that there's seasons and stages of life for all of us. And you don't know that. I didn't recognize it as a younger version of myself. And then hindsight's a beautiful thing. You look back and you see others at, in 20s or 30s or 40s. And it's like, oh, I remember that rite of passage. And, everything that life offers us, I suppose wisdom, lived wisdom, that's a grace if we have the privilege to live long enough and let go, get over ourselves, practice some gratitude. That it's my experience that wisdom drops in, and that is something that I don't know is, you can't learn it per se. It's something that as we live and you go through hardships, I think it's the gift of pain. I think it's a gift of crisis. I think it's the gift of the confusion at times. I think that's what's really happening is there's a collective humbling. I don't know about you, but I have, when I've been decimated and on my knees, that has stripped me and opened me and humbled me. That's a powerful place to be. Whereas a younger version of myself, I resisted and, bought into the drama of it and this problem, this whatever, and missing that it's for us. And I would say that Tony, also being parents at this stage, it's been beautiful to watch that evolution in him and myself as a mother, and that's just the simplicity, the ordinary, just the ordinary moments that tends to make life that much more beautiful.
It's a beautiful distinction. I mean, the gift of pain is
Yes.
wisdom. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Jesse. Nice to see you. I'll tell my brother.
Okay. One more question here for the audience. Sam, close.
Thank you so much for sharing, Sage.
Of course, hi, Sam.
So question for you. You speak a lot about responsibility and ownership and the fact that we have this choice in life and business, but there's also the duality of innocence that you've mentioned a number of times. I think that's a very human experience to hold both, but how in the moments where we ought to know better as leaders, but we fall back on some habits where they're not serving us, they're not serving our teams, how do you hold both the responsibility and the innocence in yourself?
That's beautiful. Well, it's my experience that, say if I'm blind and I'm having an interaction, the moment I recognize, okay, this is unnecessary. I'll catch a breath, because our breath is a powerful way to reconnect and realign. It's undervalued, but it's a lifeline of realignment. And then in that moment, I'll look to tidy it up. Or maybe it's afterwards, maybe it isn't in that moment. Maybe I finish the meeting or exchange, or say if Tony and I were having a conversation and if I came in hot and I walked away and we realize it. We just ignore that we realize, like, hey, that was less pleasant. I'll go back and be like, honey, I'm serious. To go back and, hon, I'm sorry, I wasn't my best self. Or in business, it looks like, what? I see, I missed in this moment. I was so blind and I was so charged, I missed what you were experiencing. So, because otherwise, then the seduction of ego is, I know better, and then if we do something that we feel is out of alignment, then we beat ourselves up. And then you go down this rabbit hole. Who can relate? Yes, that's right, we all can. And so the innocence is, I think, the allowance of the human. But the moment you catch yourself, if you're being dreamed in the nightmare, it's my experience that if we act to tidy it up in some way, to clear it up, to apologize, or to just own it. I think admitting our stuff is so rare in this world. We're so freaking good at blaming him, her, he did, she said. Rare, hey, I missed. I think that's one of the most powerful rearranging realities to reflect as leaders, and that's what responsibility looks like and feels like, remaining intact to our innocence and our nature.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sage, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Go ahead,
It's
give her a
been an
round of applause.
absolute privilege. Thank you, really. Thank you for having me, Kevin. Thank you.
Sage, you're on fire. Absolutely on fire. This next guest is also